Hello friends, welcome to the channel. In this video I will compare the visual settings for Wilds and Iceborn. As you can see by the text on your screen, it will be a split screen video, and for this comparison I'm using Chef Factory to record on a normal PS5 for both games. And if it matters at all, I'm using the same television. Of course you understand that I am not a technology freak of knowledge, so if you know or want something to add, write it down in the comments. I will really appreciate it, and most probably other people too. We start off with the in-game resolution setting for both games. Now, a few years back when I was playing Iceborn in my PS4 Pro, I had an issue with very light and dark areas. I was using the same TV as I use now. That is why you will see my recordings in this video. For the very bright areas are plains for Wilds and coral highlands for Iceborn. For the dark areas, in Wilds I chose the ruins of Bavaria underground, and for Iceborn it will be the Rotten Vale underground. So in this video we will have 8 sections. This is the bright part of the resolution setting with HDR on. See the large white cloud up in the sky of the Iceborn. This is actually a lot of small clouds in reality, what you see in game. So another thing that I noticed after I recorded half of this video is that while in game, in both games, I did not have any light or dark area issue, but once I saw my recordings I noticed that those videos were either very bright or very dark, like when I was playing Iceborn on my PS4 Pro. You know, at that time it was annoying because I would either be blinded by too much light in Coral Highlands, but see normally in Rotten Vale, or see normally in Coral Highlands, but see nothing in Rotten Vale. So I made more recordings without the HDR on to compare. And in case you are curious what I see in game, the light and dark, it does not fluctuate so much. So the visuals are not as bad as it looks like in this video, where it looks like the bright areas are rather blindingly bright and the dark areas look rather normal, and you can fight pretty much undisturbed. Now if you check on the Wilds part of the video, I'm going to what I think it is the darkest area in this game, in the Wilds. And next I'm going to go with Iceborn in the what I think it is the darkest area. In Iceborn, if you remember, here is the nest of Odogaron, somewhere around here anyway. Now before we go on, check this one out. While being in frame rate settings, if you change between graphics and frame rate, it does not require a reboot of the system, and you can see it adds some texture here and there. You can see the difference. So in this setting you don't need a reboot of the game if you are already in frame rate setting, and vice versa. Wilds did not need any reboots, only a reload of your save. So if you want to change from frame rate to resolution and vice versa, it requires a reboot of the game in Iceborn and a reload in Wilds. So let's go on. This is the frame rate setting with HDR on, the bright areas section. As you can see, the bright areas look very bright, much brighter than in-game anyway. What do you think? In my opinion, resolution looks slightly better if I had to choose. It is very hard to tell, very hard, and definitely it was not so bright in-game. Anyway, on the Wilds part of the video you will see that my television is not compatible with 120 Hz frame rate, and I think it just slightly, only slightly, looks better on the resolution setting, mostly on the textures of the walls, rocks and stuff like that. Now the dark section with frame rate setting and HDR on. Same here, dark areas are very nice to the eye. You can fight normally. And I cannot tell a large difference between resolution and frame rate, but if I had to choose, I would go for resolution. In case you are wondering, the split screen was done with the green screen effect. More on to that maybe on a future video. So if you like it so far, please like and subscribe, and we are going to move on to the next part of the video, where I remove the HDR setting. So HDR is now off, and we start with the resolution setting in the bright areas. Do you notice any difference? For me, while in game, I only saw a slight difference in colors. Colors were not so bright with HDR off. Maybe a little dimmer light. But on the recordings, as you can see, the brightness is not as annoying as before. I think I will be recording my videos with HDR off in many cases, especially when I am expecting to play in bright areas. The difference is obvious to both games. The recordings, of course. Not so much in Iceborn, for the color part, if you want my opinion. But brightness wise, yeah, definitely. The dimmer light seems like it gives a little bit more of detail to the clouds in Iceborn. Now, moving on to the dark areas with resolution setting and the HDR off, what I notice is that in the wilds, the dark area looks like it has mist or something like that. The Iceborn, however, looks great. Alright, this was unexpected. To be honest, I recorded a couple of my oldest videos in my PS4 Pro, and every time I was getting a warning from the system about HDR. Something in the form of a warning that with HDR on, my recording might show weird or something like that, and it might depend on my display device. That's why I told you about my TV in the beginning of this video. Anyway, what do you guys think?
I gathered some materials too. And check your field pouch.
Alright, nice timing. Look at this area. In Iceborn, you see that the colors are great. Amazing colors. While in the wilds, it's like mist, you know, too bright. Anyway, let's go on to the next part. It's the moment I change HDR settings. I will zoom and see the difference. Alright. Now let's move on to the next section. Frame rate setting with HDR off in the bright area. Brightness in the bright areas look about right. I remind you that in game, while HDR was on, I did not have any issues whatsoever with brightness. The problem seems to be while recording. I don't know if it is a general problem or only with Master Hunter. I never recorded extensively anyway in other games, but I remember I only had some minor display issues with the few dark areas in Witcher 3. Otherwise, most of the problems, of the display problems here in light and dark areas, were in Iceborn and World, of course. Final section of the video. Dark areas with frame rate setting and HDR off. Same thing in the wilds. The areas look like they have mist. Brightness is unbalanced. In Iceborn, it looks like it is unaffected. The colors look bright enough, and while it is a bit darker, it is not annoying at all. We can see and fight normally. The white mist wasn't visible in-game, just so you know. Moving on to more dark areas, the darkest areas in the wilds in my opinion. As you can see, in Iceborn, the colors are still amazing. Look at these colors, very nice. But in wilds, we still have mist. It is not as bad as it was with resolution, but it's still there, and I would still say it's rather unnoticeable, the difference in the wilds between frame rate and resolution. Iceborn, however, it's amazing. Look at all these colors. Let's go to these golden areas, the nest of Xuwu, where there is this gold light color, and in Iceborn too. Still, Iceborn looks better, I think, in my opinion. So we are at the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. If you have anything to add, please comment, like and subscribe. Thank you and see you all in the next video.